Hot news. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the strikes further degrade the ability of IS in Somalia. Donald Trump says he ordered military airstrikes on a senior attack planner and others from the Islamic State, IS group in Somalia. These killers, who we found hiding in caves, threatened the United States and our allies, Trump posted on social media. Get ready to listen to the news till the end and be enlightened. Please hit the like button to show your support, share it with your friends and family to spread our eye-opening extra narrative. And don't forget to follow us, to stay tuned for more and tell us something we don't know. The comments section is open. The strikes destroyed the caves they live in and killed many terrorists without in any way harming civilians. In a post on X, the Office of the President of Somalia said they had been informed of the US strike targeting senior IS leadership in the northern part of the country. The BBC could not independently verify reports of casualties. Trump did not name any of the people targeted in strikes. The president ended the post with, "The message to ISIS and all others who would attack Americans is that we will find you and we will kill you." In a post on X, the Office of Somalia President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud said he acknowledges the unwavering support of the United States in the fight against international terrorism and welcomes the continued commitment under the decisive leadership of President Donald Trump. The post also said the latest operation reinforces the strong security partnership between Somalia and the United States in combating extremist threats. In a statement, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said, "Our initial assessment is that multiple operatives were killed in the airstrikes and no civilians were harmed." Hegseth said the strikes further degrade the ability of ISIS to plot and conduct terrorist attacks, and sends a clear signal that the United States always stands ready to find and eliminate terrorists. He said the strikes were carried out in the Golis Mountains in northeast Somalia. The government of Puntland, a region of northeast Somalia, thanked international friends who participated in the airstrikes that killed high-ranking members of IS. IS rose to international prominence in the 2010s, particularly in Syria and Iraq, but now its presence is mainly restricted to parts of Africa. The Somali branch of IS was formed in 2015 by a group of defectors from the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Al-Shabaab group, the largest jihadist group in Somalia. IS in Somalia is notorious for extorting locals and mainly carries out small-scale sporadic attacks, according to the US Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Rump, in his statement on Saturday, also took a swipe at the former administration, stating the US military had targeted this particular IS planner for years, but accused Joe Biden and his cronies of not acting quickly enough to get the job done. I did. US forces killed IS leader, Bilal al-Sudani, and 10 of his operatives in a remote mountainous cave in northern Somalia in 2023, in an operation ordered by Biden. One of the last actions Trump took when he left the White House in 2020 was to pull hundreds of US troops out of Somalia. He has now ordered the first attacks on the nation less than 2 weeks after his return. Trump maintains he does not want the US involved in other countries' conflicts, while Biden had wanted to wind down America's involvement in post-9/11 conflicts. But Somalia is seen differently by Washington. The US has invested massively in the country for decades to contain the threat posed by al-Shabaab. Trump ordered strikes in his first term, despite pulling troops out in the 11th hour of his presidency. Biden reversed that decision when he took over in 2021 in order to keep a continuous US presence. So far in his second term, Trump has kept troops there. But it is likely he may eventually take a different approach, not just on Somalia, but the African continent as a whole. His former Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, said in his memoir that Trump didn't see much value in having any Americans, military personnel or diplomats anywhere on the continent. This may be more so the case with Somalia, where al-Shabaab are seemingly growing more resilient, and the US may decide it is not worth it. Trump 1.0 saw him deprioritizing US outreach to Africa. He hosted 2 sub-Saharan African leaders, but never visited the continent. Trump 2.0 will likely view Africa through a competitive lens, due to US adversaries Russia and China hugely expanding their trade influence on the continent. In another news, China, Canada and Mexico vow swift response to Trump tariffs. Trump had threatened to impose major tariffs upon taking office Canada, Mexico and China have vowed to respond to sweeping new tariffs to their exports to the US announced by President Donald Trump. Trump said a levy of 25% on Canadian and Mexican imports, as well as an additional 10% tax on Chinese goods, would come into force on Tuesday. Canadian energy faces a lower 10% tariff. The US president said the move was in response to his concerns about illegal immigration and drug trafficking, two of the main promises on which he was elected. In response, both Canada and Mexico said they were preparing similar tariffs on US goods, while China added it would take necessary countermeasures to defend its legitimate rights and interests. The implementation of tariffs and the subsequent retaliation could mark the start of a new era of global trade wars. Economists have warned the introduction of the import taxes by the US, and the responses from other countries could lead to prices rising on a wide range of products, from cars, lumber, and steel to food and alcohol. But Trump has indicated he is ready to escalate the duties further if the countries retaliate. Today's tariff announcement is necessary to hold China, Mexico, and Canada accountable for their promises to halt the flood of poisonous drugs into the United States, the White House said in a statement on X on Saturday. Trump posted on his Truth Social platform, "This was done through the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, because of the major threat of illegal aliens and deadly drugs killing our citizens, including fentanyl." Will Donald Trump's tariffs hurt US consumers? Tell me something I don't know, or China ready for new US tariffs? A tariff is a domestic tax levied on goods as they enter the country, proportional to the value of the import. They are a central part of Trump's economic vision. He sees them as a way of growing the US economy, protecting jobs and raising tax revenue, and in this case, pushing for policy action from allies. Together, China, Mexico, and Canada accounted for more than 40% of imports into the US last year. Canada, Mexico, and the US have deeply integrated economies, with an estimated $2 billion, $1.6 billion worth of manufactured goods crossing the borders daily. In its announcement, the White House accused Mexico's government of having an intolerable alliance with Mexican drug trafficking organizations. In her response, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum called allegations that the Mexican government had alliances with criminal organizations slander. Sheinbaum called on the US to do more to clamp down on the illegal flow of guns south to arm the cartels. Her country is willing to work with the US, she said. Problems are not resolved by imposing tariffs, but by talking. She has instructed her economy minister to respond with tariff and non-tariff measures. They are expected to include retaliatory tariffs of 25% on US goods. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said his country will also respond. "We don't want to be here. We didn't ask for this," he said at a news conference late on Saturday. "But we will not back down in standing up for Canadians." His government will impose 25% tariffs on 155 billion worth of American goods. 30 billion will come into force on Tuesday and another 125 billion in 21 days. Targeted items include American beer, wine, bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, vegetables, perfumes, clothing and shoes, as well as household appliances, sporting goods and furniture. Lumber and plastics will also face levies. Non-tariff measures being considered are related to critical minerals and procurement, although Trudeau did not offer more detail. The Canadian Prime Minister pushed back on the suggestion the shared border posed a security concern, saying less than 1% of fentanyl going into the United States comes from Canada. In a bid to avoid the tariffs altogether, Ottawa had promised to implement 1.3 billion Canadian dollars, 900 meters, 700 meters of new security measures along its US border. "Tariffs are not the best way we can work together to save lives," Trudeau said. He also said he had not spoken to Trump since the inauguration, but would keep lines open with US counterparts. Canada is America's largest foreign supplier of crude oil. According to the most recent official trade figures, 61% of oil imported into the US between January and November last year came from Canada. China said in a statement that it was strongly dissatisfied with the levies and firmly opposes them. The 10% tax will be added over and above tariffs already imposed on China by Trump in his first term and by President Joe Biden. It added that it would file a lawsuit with the World Trade Organization against the US for its wrongful practice. Trade and tariff wars have no winners, said a spokesperson at China's Washington embassy. China's Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang told the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, last month that his country was looking for a win-win solution to trade tensions and wanted to expand its imports. US industry groups have also raised alarm bells. The auto sector could be especially hard hit. Auto parts cross the three borders multiple times before a final vehicle is assembled. TD Economics suggest the average US car price could increase by around $3,000. A January report by the Peterson Institute for International Economics suggested blanket 25% tariffs on Canada, and Mexico would slow growth and accelerate inflation in all three countries. On Friday, Trump acknowledged there could be some temporary short-term disruption from the tariffs. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce released a statement saying tariffs will have immediate and direct consequences on Canadian and American livelihoods and will drastically increase the cost of everything for everyone. US industry groups have also raised alarm bells. The National Home Builders Association said the levies could increase housing costs. The Farmers for Free Trade said, with many US farmers already struggling, adding tariffs to the mix would only exacerbate the situation across much of rural America. The US Retail Industry Leaders Association, which includes big names such as Home Depot, Target, and Walgreens, among its more than 200 members, expressed hope tariffs could still be averted. The White House, explaining on Saturday why it was targeting its top trading partners, said Mexican cartels were responsible for trafficking fentanyl, methamphetamine, and other drugs. It said tariffs on Canada would remain until it cooperates with the US against drug traffickers and on border security. Lastly, it said China plays the central role in the fentanyl crisis, with exports of the lethal synthetic painkiller. Both the northern and southern US borders have reported drug seizures, though amounts at the border with Canada are considerably lower than those with Mexico, according to official data. US border agents seized 43 libis, 19.5 kilos of fentanyl at the northern border between October 2023 and last September, compared to more than 21,000 Ws, 9,525.4 at the southern border. Still, recent reports from Canadian intelligence agencies suggest a growing number of transnational organised crime groups are manufacturing drugs in Canada. Ashley Davis, a Republican lobbyist for businesses who represents major US companies, including Walmart and Boeing, and has been involved in discussions about tariffs, told the BBC's World Business. Reports she thought Trump would pull back on the tariffs in North America if he could point to progress on the issues he has raised as complaints, especially immigration. You have to remember, the border and China are the two biggest issues that Americans voted him on in the elections in November. Anything he can do to claim wins on that, I think he's going to do, she said. In another news, this is about the mother and child among 7 killed in Philadelphia medical jet crash. Doorbell cameras film moment of plane crash. A small medical transport plane crashed into several buildings in the US city of Philadelphia on Friday evening, killing all 6 people on board and at least 1 other person on the ground, the mayor has confirmed. The jet was on a medical transport trip, heading to Tijuana, Mexico, with a short stopover in Missouri. It was carrying a child patient and her mother, along with 2 pilots, a doctor and paramedic. They were all Mexican nationals, but just 1 minute after takeoff, the Learjet 55 plummeted to the ground. Videos show the plane coming down quickly and sparking a huge fireball. 19 others were injured, though Mayor Sherelle Parker said that number could still change. Speaking at a news conference on Saturday, Philadelphia City Managing Director Adam Thiel said it would probably be days or more until officials are able to confirm the number of folks who perished in this tragedy and the outcome of those who were injured. He added that there is still a lot of unknowns about who was where when the crash happened. The girl being transported to Mexico had just finished medical treatment for a life-threatening illness at Shriners Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. Earlier on Friday, staff had thrown her a party to celebrate, hospital spokesman Mel Bauer said. He added that staff who treated her had been impacted very deeply by news of the tragedy. The flight was bound for Springfield, Missouri for a short stopover before continuing on to Tijuana. The plane left Northeast Philadelphia Airport at about 18:07 local time, 23:07 GMT on Friday, rose to 1,500 paf, turned slightly right, then slightly left, then began a steep descent, National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB officials said. The crash occurred less than 4 miles, 6.4 kilometers away. Flight logs show the plane was in the air for only a minute before it crashed, Mayor Parker said. No issues were reported from the plane to air traffic control, and controllers who attempted to get a response from the flight crew did not receive one, NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy said. Police respond to fiery scene after small plane crashes in Philadelphia. Witnesses described shrapnel damaging cars and sending burning debris into the streets. Photos of the aftermath show mangled, burnt-out vehicles and a deep gouge in the street. Fire officials said there were 5 separate fires sparked by the crash, but they were contained and extinguished. The crash happened just blocks from the Roosevelt Mall, a 3-story shopping center in a densely populated part of Philadelphia, the 5th biggest city in the U.S. The area is filled with terraced housing and shops. Many properties lost power after the crash. One man said he was driving when he heard a whirring sound and then a loud explosion. Everyone just started screaming, he said. Another witness told local media the explosion lit up the whole sky. I just saw a plane basically hit the building and it exploded. The sky lit up and I pulled over and basically, it was just real bad around here, the witness told WPVI-TV, describing the crash as feeling like an earthquake. Ryan Tian, 23, told the Philadelphia Inquirer he was getting dinner when he saw a massive fireball that turned the sky orange. I thought we were getting attacked by something, he said. In a statement, Jared Solomon, a local state representative, said, "In a time of profound tragedy, I was inspired to witness hundreds of our first responders sprinting towards danger to ensure the safety of our neighborhood." Mayor Parker said emergency workers had worked through the night at the crash site. Officials said the wreckage site is large, spanning up to 6 blocks, and there is also debris in remote areas too. The mayor told city residents that if they find any debris to call 911 and don't touch anything. NTSB investigators are still looking for the cockpit voice recorder, which is likely damaged and may be fragmented, Ms. Homendy said. She said investigators would be collecting debris for several days, possibly extending into weeks. I do want to stress this is an active investigation scene. The debris is scattered, it is very dangerous, so I encourage everyone to stay out of the accident site, she said. The FAA is also investigating. In a statement, President Donald Trump said his administration was totally engaged. So sad to see the plane go down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. More innocent souls lost, he said. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said she mourns the passing of 6 Mexicans in the aviation accident, in a statement translated from Spanish. My solidarity is with their loved ones and friends, she added. The Mexican Foreign Ministry said personnel at the country's consulate in Philadelphia were in contact with next of kin. This crash comes just 2 days after a much larger collision happened between a commercial jet and a military helicopter in Washington, D.C., where officials believe all 67 people aboard both aircraft were killed. It was the deadliest plane crash in the U.S. in more than 20 years. Ms. Homendy said on Saturday her agency was highly skilled, and it was not unusual for the NTSB to be investigating 2 major accidents. Additional reporting by Tiffany Wertheimer. Aviation Accidents and Incidents, Philadelphia, United States. Kindly hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to show your support. Share it with your friends and family to spread our eye-opening news, and don't forget to follow us to stay tuned for more. Once more, tell us something we don't know and drop your comments. Thank you and God bless you.